This isn't funny. Is this some teenage joke?
Teenage. Yes. Joke? No.
All right, let me...
Patience.
Let me go. Let me go.
Patience.
Let me go!
Patience. Just checking out the side of the house, okay?
Hello, Canada, and the world at large. This is Lane from Canada. This movie's about a pedophile trying to lure a kid into the West Hollywood equivalent of a windowless van. Couldn't think of a better way to dress that one up. Welcome to Before Movies Sucked, and this is Hard Candy. Hayley is a 14-year-old Los Angeles girl who has been engaging in a dangerously flirtatious online relationship with a much older man named Jeff. After several weeks of chatting, they agree to meet in person for the first time at a coffee shop. As they chat over coffee and chocolates, we are shown a poster for a missing girl named Donna Maurer. Hayley and Jeff both seem attracted to one another, and Jeff subtly baits Hayley by mentioning that he has a bootleg concert of a band that she loves. Hayley immediately agrees to come to his home to listen to it. At Jeff's remote house in the Hollywood Hills, it is revealed that he is a well-respected photographer who specializes in modeling shots of young girls. Most of his wall hangings are these modeling shots, and he states this makes the models more comfortable as they are walking into his portfolio when they enter his home. He claims to be well-versed in the legal boundaries of his work, but Hayley teases that Jeff secretly wants to sleep with his underage models. Jeff states that the only one he ever slept with was his first girlfriend, Janelle, in the late 80s, and that they were both young at the time. Jeff shows Hayley his in-home studio, and she prepares screwdrivers for them to drink.
Don't fall behind.
We should toast.
Carpe omnius.
What's that?
Well, that's my own little toast. You know carpe diem, what is it?
Seize the day.
So I figure carpe omnius.
Take it all.
Take it all.
After finishing their drinks, Hayley asks Jeff to do a photo shoot with her. She begins performing a provocative dance, but Jeff becomes increasingly agitated and disoriented, demanding that Hayley be her true self and angrily shouting at her. Hayley is frightened by his reaction, but Jeff abruptly collapses and passes out. Jeff awakens sometime later tied to a chair, and Hayley cheerfully admits that she drugged him using sedatives swiped from her father, a medical professor at UCW.
What? Why do I get tied up first if this is how we're gonna play?
Jeff, playtime is over. Now it's time to wake up.
Hayley reveals that she knew Jeff's sinister nature all along, and has been stalking him in return to determine what kind of predator he is. Jeff insists he is innocent and has never molested anyone, but admits he was wrong to flirt with Hayley and claims he only did so because he has been depressed and lonely.
Come on. I wanted to impress you. Am I the first guy to do something stupid to impress a girl? Does that deserve being tied up and tortured?
Torture? Is this torture to you? Wow, I guess you've never read anything by Amnesty International or Human Rights Watch, because this is nothing.
After seeing records of unknown downloaded images on Jeff's computer, Hayley suspects that he is hiding child pornography in a secret location. She accuses him of being a voyeur and a pedophile with violent tendencies. When Jeff adamantly denies this, Hayley begins ransacking his home looking for the evidence.
Look, go into the living room. Look in the gray cabinet. Pull out the third drawer down. You'll see prints of my work for all kinds of environmental groups. I've done shots of the Yukon Territory, Utah wilderness, Inuit villages in Alaska.
So what? You love nature, thus you must be a nice guy?
I'm saying my modeling shots are just part of my portfolio. I've shot a lot of different subjects, some of it very important work.
And it was so important that you thought, well, I can't possibly hang it on the walls of my home. I need to plaster my house with pictures of underage nymphs and just tuck the nature shots away.
Hayley eventually finds a hidden floor safe in a rock garden as Jeff desperately tries to get free, finally succeeding in loosening the ropes around one of his ankles. He seems panicked to hear Hayley clearing away the rocks, but cannot talk her out of attempting to open the safe. Hayley realizes the combination is the date of Jeff's first photo shoot with Janelle, but her suspicions are confirmed, and it is implied that the safe contains child pornography. The only item that seems out of place is an innocuous photo of Donna Maurer, apparently happy and unharmed in front of the same shop where Hayley had first met Jeff. When Hayley says that she knows Donna, Jeff manages to kick her away, stunning her. He rolls the chair to his bedroom where he manages to grab his pistol, but Hayley ambushes him with a roll of plastic wrap, suffocating him until he passes out again. In agony and barely able to breathe after being beaten in the struggle, Hayley has a panic attack. Jeff awakens half-naked and bound spread eagle with only a large bag of ice covering his groin, numbing him. Hayley is changed into a pair of surgical scrubs and demands to know what happened to Donna. Jeff confesses to meeting Donna for coffee, but says he only took her photo and never touched her or took her home. Hayley counters that he should have taken the photo to the police when Donna went missing. Jeff agrees and tells Hayley to call the police so that he can confess.
A cute pedophile pleads guilty. But oh, it's not his fault. He's sick. He has an addiction.
I'll do jail. Isn't that what should happen?
Yeah, you might. You might get jail time. I don't know, therapy, drugs, group discussions, notifying people when you move into a new house. How bad is that, really?
It'll ruin my career. It'll ruin my life.
Come on, didn't Roman Polanski just win an Oscar?
Name one other film that would dare to utter that line. Hayley's based. Oh yeah, and then this happens.
Everybody'll be safer if I do a little preventive maintenance.
This movie just got good.
Are you the man?
What?
Stay away from little girls.
Seriously, it turns out that castration is like the easiest surgical procedure around. And thousands of farm boys all across the country geld their own livestock. So I figure if they can do it, then I can pull it off, if you know what I mean.
Jeff desperately tries to dissuade Hayley by telling her a story about how he's viciously abused by his aunt as a child, after she suspected that he had been molesting his young cousin. However, the only alternative Hayley offers is for her to send an email to Janelle, pretending to be a ditzy girl smitten with Jeff, after which she will leave him alone. However, in doing so, she would reveal all of Jeff's predatory actions to the one woman he still pines for. Unable to accept this, Jeff has one of the more animalistic meltdowns in the history of cinema, begging Hayley to let him go.
I shouldn't have teased you like that. I shouldn't have let you think there was a way out of this.
Jeff is seemingly acceptant of his fate as Hayley begins the surgery. When she is finished, she is drenched in sweat and leaves to take a shower. Jeff furiously pulls against his restraints, finally managing to free one hand and untie himself. However, he realizes that he is completely unharmed, and the entire surgery was a psychological bluff. Jeff has the opportunity to call the police, but he gives in to his rage and takes a scalpel to the bathroom to kill Hayley. However, Hayley had been lying in wait and ambushes him with a stun gun, incapacitating him in the shower. Hayley begins meticulously cleaning up all the forensic traces of her invasion and types a suicide note on Jeff's computer. She then reties Jeff and hoists him onto a chair with a noose around his neck. It is implied that the entire investigation was a test, and Jeff failed by not escaping or calling the police when he had the chance, confirming his darkest nature. A neighbor named Judy Takuda unexpectedly arrives. Hey, that's Sandra Oh! She is delivering her daughter's Girl Scout cookies for Jeff, but Hayley is able to convince her that she is Jeff's visiting niece and Jeff is sick in bed. Hayley offers Jeff one final option. If he will step off the chair and hang himself, she will destroy all the evidence of his crimes. Instead, Jeff viciously attacks her, managing to get his feet on the counter and free himself from the noose. Hayley panics and flees as Jeff begins searching for her with a large kitchen knife. Outraged at the thought that Hayley has left him, he violently stabs one of his wall hangings, in the process finally coming to terms with the monster he has become.
You're right. You're right, Hayley. Thank you. Thank you. This is me. This is who I am. Thank you. Thank you for helping me see it.
Hayley has armed herself with Jeff's pistol on the roof and holds Jeff at gunpoint when he joins her. He is willing to kill her anyway, but she shocks him with the news that Janelle will be arriving at any moment. Hayley had called Janelle while Jeff was unconscious, posing as an LAPD officer, telling her that there was a sensitive matter at Jeff's home that they needed her assistance with. Hayley then shows Jeff that she has brought the noose up to the roof and tells him that he still has the option of killing himself and having the evidence destroyed. In return, Janelle will never know of his sins and will only remember him as a good man.
I'll find you. I'll track you down!
Assuming you knew anything about me.
What, a Calabasas girl whose dad teaches at UCW shouldn't be that hard to find.
You believed all that? Huh?
God, who are you?
It's hard to say for sure. Maybe not a Calabasas girl. Maybe not the daughter of a med school professor.
Maybe not even a friend of Donna Maurer.
Maybe not even named Hayley.
Who the hell are you?
I am every little girl you ever watched, touched, hurt, screwed, killed.
Janelle arrives and begins calling for Jeff, who collapses in despair. Hayley begs him to take her offer, warning him of the brutal fate that awaits pedophiles if they go to prison. Jeff finally breaks down and gives one last confession to Hayley.
I didn't kill her. I just watched. I wanted to take pictures, but he wouldn't let me. It was me and another guy. I didn't do it, I swear. I'll tell you his name, and I hope you find him. I hope you find him.
I know his name. I know his name. Jeff. You know, it's funny. Aaron told me you did it before he killed himself.
With no will left to fight, Jeff acceptantly allows Hayley to place the noose around his neck and walks to the edge of the roof. After a final reassurance from Hayley, Jeff steps off the roof to his death. Before fleeing the home, however, Hayley quietly implies that she was lying about destroying the evidence. As the sun sets, Hayley walks away into the woods. Although this movie may seem to be a pure revenge fantasy, it was actually inspired by a true story in Japan. A group of schoolgirls who were being harassed online would identify online predators in chat rooms, lure them to a meeting place, and then like 12 of them would be waiting for the dude with baseball bats. That's one for you, Japan. The digital coloration and lighting of a movie is not something I generally notice, although what the heck was the deal with every blockbuster being color graded to emphasize only blue and orange a few years ago? Hard Candy uses the same color gradation, but only in specific instances and for specific purposes. For example, when Hayley becomes angry, the color changes to a cold blue, and then returns to a normal temperature when she calms or is amused. There's also a couple of great moments where Jeff or Hayley's face will briefly darken at an ominous moment. We first see this when Hayley utters her carpe omnius toast, and again when Jeff begins to feel the effects of the sedative Hayley used to drug him. The effect was actually accomplished by brightening the set lights and then dimming them digitally in post-production, allowing the characters to seemingly darken without losing any of the clear details of their face, as would happen with regular shadowing techniques. That light trick is about the only light moment in this movie, and don't think it is in any way softened by having a child actor in the lead role. This was one of the most psychologically intense thriller experiences of my life. When describing it to friends, I usually just tell them it's two people in a house and you cannot look away. A bunch of us were watching this for the first time, and my friends were literally burying their heads in the couch cushions to escape the preventive maintenance scene. What's fascinating about that scene is that it shows nothing gory. Instead, the camera simply alternates between the faces of Hayley and Jeff. The music, audio, and built-up tension fill in the blanks, just like in the first Alien movie. We are more terrified of what we imagine is going on than what is shown, and we are far more terrified of what we think is happening than what is eventually revealed to have happened. It's not a cheap trick or a spineless cop-out by director David Slade or screenwriter Brian Nelson. That's just the purest form of filmmaking. Even the poster for this movie is one of the most effective images I've ever seen in advertising. Perfect combination of intrigue, ominousness, and simplicity, with even a touch of dark fairy tale. It's one of my favorite posters ever. Particularly in television, the concept of a self-contained story in a limited or claustrophobic setting, sometimes known as a bottle episode, is a cost-saving measure that allows some catch-up work to be done on other larger-scale episodes while it's being filmed. However, that doesn't mean it can't still be a great piece of art, whether in television or film. Some of my favorite films are basically bottle episodes, most often in the psychological thriller or horror genres. Besides Hard Candy, a great example of this is 2016's The Monster, which primarily focuses on the scene of a car accident where Zoe Kazan and Ella Ballantyne are stalked by an unknown creature on a remote road. A slightly different example would be 2014's Open Windows, which takes place in multiple locations, but the same claustrophobic essence is retained as the entire cyber thriller plays out as a video chat on Elijah Wood's laptop. And somehow we still get to see Sasha Grey's boobs. The curious thing about Hard Candy is that there isn't a clear-cut hero. Obviously Jeff is right out on that one, although it could be argued that he draws the most sympathy from the audience, but Hayley can't really be called anything but a pure vigilante. Her identifying of pedophiles and gathering evidence on them isn't problematic, but there is a persistent issue of she could have gone to the police at any time. Instead, she chooses to hunt them down alone and very gently persuade them to kill themselves. Whatever. In the case of docket number 2005, unnamed vigilante minor versus possibly murderous pedophile, I'm fine ruling in favor of the vigilante. What makes Hayley's situation a little more complex is a rather profound reflection on the historical leniency that courts have shown towards child molesters, and particularly those in Los Angeles.
Why didn't Roman Polanski just win an Oscar?
The performances in this movie are incredible. Patrick Wilson and the artist formerly known as Ellen Page are absolutely enrapturing. Page in particular was critically and rightfully acclaimed, but I think Patrick Wilson gets a little overlooked, especially for the physicality of his performance. Every stunt he had to perform while strapped to pieces of furniture is pretty dang impressive, notably in this scene where he has to retrieve a gun from his bed while still strapped to a chair. Wilson had requested that there be no choreography planned for the stunt, forcing him to get the weapon through sheer willpower. In his second escape attempt, Wilson actually moved the table he was spread-eagled on several inches across the floor while attempting to reach his phone. Again, no easy feat, even on a wheeled table. In his final escape, he strained so hard while attempting to slip his wrists out of their bonds that he actually passed out during one of the takes. Also, there was no makeup on his hands to make them that purple. That was just pure method. The strain of Wilson's intense performance even took a toll on his vocal cords. The film was shot almost entirely in sequence and in a real house, with the single exception of the opening scene at the coffee shop. An on-location shoot wasn't feasible, particularly as they needed to keep the budget under $1 million to avoid studio interference on such a controversial project, so it was cheaper to just build a coffee shop set. As a result of the construction delay, the coffee shop scene was actually the last scene to be shot, and you can hear that Wilson's voice is deeper and raspier than it is a few minutes later during the first scene in Jeff's house, which was actually the first scene of the film to be shot. In that scene, his voice is notably softer and higher pitched. I can't imagine what could have happened in the interim to cause such a notable change.
Dad?
Surprisingly, Hayley's torturous investigation of Jeff is not the scariest part of the movie. To me, the most chilling part was the opening scene in the coffee shop, and that's because Jeff doesn't appear as a basement-dwelling, sweat-mopped mouth breather with a lecherous leer. He's a well-dressed, professional, and handsome man, and he and Hayley present themselves exactly as any regular couple would on a first date. The actors have great chemistry and their banter is legitimately cute, which makes it all the more horrifying. Again, it reminds us that bad guys don't wear black hats. Now, to be fair to the black hat villain community, I've watched quite a few of those Catch a Predator shows, and Jeff weighs about 250 pounds less and has about 4 ounces less hair grease than most of the men and women who I've seen get busted by the camera crew. However, that doesn't lessen the reminder that the most intelligent of deviants are all the more dangerous because they know exactly how to present themselves in public. For the most part. Jeff is intelligent in his predations, but he does make a few remarks that make his intentions clear. He doesn't sexually proposition Hayley. Instead, he makes a casual comment about,
Well, I'm gonna have to wait 4 years for you.
referring to Hayley finally turning 18. Why does he say that? To see her reaction. Everything he does is designed to be endearing and seemingly respectful, but also to test Hayley's boundaries. In the same way, he doesn't invite Hayley to his home, he actually states the opposite.
It's not like I can just take you over to my house.
But he only says that after he's baited Hayley by mentioning that he owns the bootleg concert. This guy doesn't use a van and duct tape. He uses a trail of breadcrumbs laced with charm and chocolate ganaches. Now, I actually consider the overarching agenda of the blue-haired people in Hollywood to be far worse than your average pedophile because, Hollywood blue-haired people literally want to eradicate mankind. But I will say that they could learn a few lessons in subtlety from Jeff.
The Oscar goes to Roman Polanski for The Pianist. The Academy congratulates Roman Polanski and accepts this award on his behalf.
And so I cry sometimes when I'm lying in bed just to get it out of what's in my head. And I feel it, a little peculiar. And so I wake in the morning and I step outside and I take a deep breath and get real high. And I straight to the top of my lungs, what's going on? And I say, hey, I say, hey, what's going on? And I say, hey, I say, what's going on? And he tries. Oh my God, do I try? I try all the time in this institution.
Yeah, Hollywood people suck. Here's a more likable toughest man on the planet running on a treadmill covered with Lego.
Great, googly woogly, pain.
That is a man's man right there. Hayley is just about everything that we could ask for from a female antihero, and the artist formerly known as Ellen Page blows her much more famous 2007 role of Juno out of the water with this one. She brags about being an honors student, and her intelligence and planning indicate that this is likely to be true, but it does give her an overconfident edge that puts her life in danger on multiple occasions. For all of her caution, she is still a child putting herself in harm's way for questionable reasons. The comments that she makes about her therapist may have been false information, much like the rest of her life that she tells Jeff about, or it could be an indication that she really is just that messed up in the head. Regardless of her authenticity, she is clearly tactical in her planning, especially when you realize that almost every aspect of her interrogation was designed to see what Jeff would do if he actually got free. Despite the mystery of who she is, Hayley still gets one of the most authentic moments in the film after she suffocates Jeff with the plastic wrap. Even while tied up, Jeff is more than a physical match for her, repeatedly attempting to crush the child against the wall with his chair, leaving her winded and in agony after he finally passes out. Her panic attack as soon as she is alone was a later addition to the script, as director David Slade felt that they needed to take control away from Hayley even for just a few more moments. Without that loss of control, she risked coming across as an indestructible nightmare creature in Jeff's life, rather than as a real human. Wow, Imagine that. Genuine artistic filmmakers who still care about crafting a believable, strong female character within the bounds of biological and historical reality. Could this movie be made today? There are biologically based strength differentials between men and women, which is why the definition of a good man has historically been one who will physically protect women, whereas a bad man is one who would physically harm.
Conflicted.
If a kid is experimenting and says something flirtatious, you ignore it. You don't encourage it. If a kid says, hey, let's make screwdrivers, you take the alcohol away and you don't race them to the next drink.
Child molestation and grooming of minors presented as a bad thing. Those drag queens in Florida who just threatened to boycott any drag performance that doesn't allow the attendance of minors, and various other blue-haired people would like to have a word.
I don't want to do it. It's embarrassing. No, you're ridiculous. It's tradition. It's Shakespeare's day. All the women's roles were played by men. I think we're gonna get letters about this.
And now
You walk into somebody's house, you start looking through their shit, you're gonna find things that embarrass them. Doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't mean anything? The cancel-loving blue-haired people who are currently backmining the last 17 years of Twitter to find anything objectionable that anyone has ever said ever would beg to differ.
We are going to hold hearing after hearing until we are satisfied. This will be blown way out of proportion. You have my word on it.
I'm not going to act like I can't enjoy a good revenge thriller, as I have no problem with keeping tabs on what's life and what's fantasy within the realm of film. I recognize the visceral catharticism of revenge concepts, and I'm fine with the ASMR tingle that they provide. A well-told revenge tale is escapism at its finest, even more so than swords and sorcery or superheroes. And it doesn't have to be without moral merit, particularly when presented in the when justice fails context. We are shown one seemingly self-contained event in this film, but the ending actually remains wide open. Hayley's plan is actually compromised on various fronts, which was an intentional decision by the filmmakers rather than just the result of a lazy script. The police will know that Jeff was chatting online with someone named Hayley, unless Hayley is considerably better at wiping hard drives than I suspect she is. Janelle has heard her voice and heard the name Hayley over the phone. Judy Takuda has seen Hayley's face and seems suspicious of the child's unconvincing answers. Hayley might be right when she tells Jeff that the police will not care enough to look into who ended the life of a possibly murderous child molester and left all the evidence for them. Or she might not. We're free to speculate on what happens next in the life of one strange little girl, and believe me, I have. And that's the effect of great storytelling. We don't really know what to believe about either character in this movie. Hayley has veiled as many aspects of her life as she can in order to get close to Jeff, but she can never fully hide her nature no matter how much she tries to hide her identity. Jeff, on the other hand, tells a story about being horrifically abused by his aunt, and insists to his dying breath that he has never killed or hurt anyone. But in the end, that's not enough to save him, regardless of whether or not he's telling the truth. The shame of what he has participated in makes him just as guilty as whichever person actually took the life of Donna Maurer. And it's all summed up perfectly in a single exchange.
It was him. It wasn't me.
I don't care.
I don't care either. Anyway, should Christ tarry, I'll see you in the next video. Jesus loves you. Vote Lane for King of Canada. As a farm boy, I can assure you that gelding your own livestock/pedophiles really is the easiest surgical procedure to carry out. And let's make movies great again.
Put him on the endangered species list.